James Kalm, your half-assed reporter, the guy on the bike. And today we're gonna run into Front Room Gallery, and we're gonna lasso Peter Fox and his son, Sam, and we're gonna take a little tour, and we'll get Peter to talk a little bit about some of the paintings. Okay, there goes Mom and Sam. Does the show have a title?
The title of the show is Surface Tension. Surface Tension.
Okay, now I think I've probably covered 2 or 3 of your shows over the last, 7, 8 years, something like that?
Yeah.
And I came by for the opening a couple of weeks ago, and I was kind of surprised, startled. Seems like you've kind of changed your approach a little bit. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, it's still drawn from the same space, but it's really kind of an evolution out of there. There's a shift in palette for one.
Well, that's what I was going to say. For one thing, you changed up your colors quite a bit. And this is all acrylic paint, right?
It's all acrylic paint. It's all applied with a stylus. So it's really
a stylus?
A stylus. So I remember it's a tool, a tool I made, but I really see it as a kind of drawing implement rather than like a brush, which is a paint,
Right, so when I think of a stylus, I think of something that you would use if you were scratching in an etching plate or something like that. It's just like a sharp, pointed object. Is that what you're using? Because I'm looking at this and I'm thinking that a lot of this strokes looks like a thick palette knife or something, squeegee maybe. Can you describe your stylus that you're using? I mean, exactly what is this thing?
I can, it is a piece of plastic.
Piece of plastic.
Made big. One end it looks almost like a fountain pen nib.
Just a huge fountain pen nib.
A huge fountain pen nib. I can load different colors of paint in it at the same time, and it makes ribbons of striped paint like we see here. And those can start to blend against one another.
And then you can just use the broad edge to do your kind of squeegeeing, your flat sliding.
Spill off, I can smush back, I can scrape into it.
Okay.
So I can spill from it, I can draw with it, I can squeegee with it, use it a number of different ways, but somehow it's really the same tool that I was using for the drip painting stuff, but somehow changing the name of it allowed the work to change too, giving it a name.
Yeah, the other thing I'm noticing, and this is kind of a good example, this piece here, is that there are areas where there's almost like bare canvas coming through, or much less paint on there, almost like a wash, but I guess you would call that some kind of a scraping or a slide, a thin slide of paint.
Yeah, so there's kind of smearing as part of it, and then scrape, the stylus can scrape down tight, so you get this is done sort of in one gesture, but some parts are left thicker and some parts are cut through and back down to the white of the gesso. So you had mentioned at the opening sort of the reference to Baroque painting, and
yes.
I don't know that consciously that I started from that, but of course I can see it too. I spent a year and a half living in Rome, and so I spent a lot of time looking at that painting.
Is that recently, or?
I was in grad school in the late 90s.
Okay, so this wasn't like during the course that you were making the paintings?
No, not at all. And then these are done, this is kind of a layered process thing, which is what I've always, all the work you've seen has always been that.
Right.
Through this, and
here again, as we've got the more open canvas there. Well, the other thing I was going to mention is that with some of the previous shows, does this piece have a title?
Yeah, it's Second Self.
Second Self. I was going to say, with some of the previous shows, you had almost a conceptual aspect of the work. I remember seeing a show of yours, and you had a Vermeer landscape that you had kind of blown up, and then you had painted with your kind of daubs of paint with your, I guess, the stylus or the palette knife or something like that. But it was really more of a kind of a conceptual approach to painting. And even some of the pieces, I guess, from your last show out at when Front Room was still out in Williamsburg, they were abstract, but they were kind of spaced and coloristically almost preconceived in a certain way. And what I'm kind of picking up on this group of work is that you're actually kind of going back to a more, I guess, what I would call action painting, maybe classic abstract expressionism.
You could say that
maybe a more primordial approach instead of a less conceptual kind of approach.
Well, it's that as a conceptual, Larry. With
okay.
Vermeer painting, there was a kind of reaction in that to people calling the work abstract, and so I said, all right, so I'll make some real abstract paintings, and I figured, here's one of the layers of my conceptual abstraction will be I'll insert an image that already exists. So I'm not generating an image, and that will be the ordering system, sort of as an abstract concept. In this case, the ordering system comes out of automatic drawing. And so I did a project in 2001 for 10,000 automatic drawings, and I've been trying to find a way to bring that back to painting. So in naming the tool a stylus, then it really became a drawing tool, and then that made the link to the automatic drawing project, which is what I have been looking for a long time. And so these I approached from blank canvas. The palette is all earth tones, directly out of a tube. I didn't mix color, I set up.
So we're talking burnt umber, raw umber,
yes.
Burnt sienna, raw sienna, yellow ochre, and you've got some, that's Payne's gray, because I was going to say that looks like a kind of an indigo blue.
Yeah, it's actually Payne's gray, and I finally.
And does this piece have a title?
This one is called Warlock.
And this is about 4 by 5 feet, something like that?
Something like that. I think it's 66 inches wide, something like that. And roughly 46 by 60. It's on the checklist.
Okay, let's
So
look at
these things, from blank canvas, I made no decisions at all in the process once it starts.
Well, when you say you made no decisions, obviously you had to make a lot of decisions, where you're going to place the brush stroke or the stylus stroke, where you're going to put this color as opposed to that color.
That's all from the automatic. I even load the stylus from the space of the automatic, that where my hand reaches, that's what goes on. And, not to be weird about it, but it's the automatic drawing project left me with a kind of practiced automatic, and trusting that to do the whole project. And that's the conceptual space of this, that's one of the layers. I set up the palette. There's an analytical, objective setup. The automatic is an extremely subjective thing, one would think, but it's loaded in as an objective layer conceptually. And then the rest is, it's not that I don't see the paintings and don't know when they're terrible, because they're terrible until they're done. It's sort of, I think every painter has that experience. Not every painter, but part of painting is how long can you stay in the room with a bad painting until it turns into something acceptable anyway.
What's the title on this one?
This one is Two-Step.
Two-Step, and this is about
It's
5.5 by 6 feet, something like that?
Yeah.
So 68 by 72, something. And again, we've got our nice big areas of Just open prime canvas here.
68 by 74.
68 by 74. Okay, I was off by 2 inches.
But it's, I'm talking about sort of the color stuff. Really, you get red, yellow, blue here, and that's burnt sienna, Payne's gray, and yellow ochre. But color is contextual.
Yeah. Also, I'm thinking that little section right there kind of makes me think of a Lake de Kooning. If we were to crop that out a little bit, So in certain ways, although there is a kind of a reference to what you're saying about the Baroque. I think it also relates a lot to just New York school painting. What do you think about, do you see yourself as historically related, or do you just see this as we're talking about, just a conceptual framework that you kind of put stuff in there?
You mean related to?
Well, the authentic action painters.
Sure, but when you talk about not as a direct heir of that.
Right.
That's a conceptual layer, really, to say to this project. All of the work, all the way back to the drip work, came out of a sort of deconstruction of abstraction as language, and so again, it's treated as second language. It's not, I can speak a little bit of French, but I'm not French. I learned it in school.
You're not French?
I'm not French.
Are you sure? Do we have the DNA tests?
Maybe. But at any rate, so that's sort of the distance I want to keep abstraction at here. It's not, I'm not an abstract painter firsthand, whatever that means, however we understand that at this point. I'm taking that as a historical language.
Yes.
Taking automatic drawing as a historical language. That's a Dada space. Those things are merged here or layered over top of one another. There's a process space here of the way the application of paint and the apparatus that gets used for that. And so it's really looking through these different lenses, or projecting through the different lenses. I could say this is very subjective, or people could say this is very subjective, but I don't have any sense of authorship beyond assembling the strategy, or assembling the system of doing this. I chose abstract painting, I chose automatic drawing, I built the apparatus that makes it, I put those together, and then after that, it's not me. What comes out. I see stories in it. I make up, I have narratives. I'm trying to figure out what the narratives are. And for me, what's satisfying about them is I keep thinking I understand, and then the story falls apart, and I have to try again and rebuild it.
Sure.
What does this mean? Why is it like that? But it feels like it makes a sense, and I don't really know what the sense is.
Okay. Well, Peter Fox, thank you for giving us a little guided tour and an explanation of your show. What was the title again?
The title of the show is Surface Tension.
Surface Tension. Here at Front Room, and what's the address here on Hester Street?
I think it's 85 Hester.
85 Hester and Ludlow.
On the Lower East Side.
On the Lower East Side.
48 Hester.
Okay, 48. All right, people, you can leave your comments, suggestions, critiques, reviews, ideas. You can subscribe and like this, but we have to say thank you, Kate.